What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is my review for Superman, the movie. This is hard for me, man, because Superman is one of my favorite characters, and I know some people feel like he's not fleshed out enough or whatever. I disagree. I think he's got a very cool backstory and a very deep backstory. It just, it depends on how deep you dive into it. I think where he lacks is villains. Brainiac really doesn't register with a lot of people. Lex Luthor is a smart guy. Characters like Batman definitely have a larger, wider, much cooler selection of villains to go up against, and so I think that does make him cooler in that way. But I'm a big Superman fan. But I've also never seen this movie, and it was made in 1978, the year I was born. So it is a little bit dated. Like, very dated at this point. The special effects, it was hard to watch, man. Just because, I love living in 2020. I love the technology we have now. And it's cool to see things we've never been able to see before without that technology. So going back and watching a movie like this, you really have to try to make that suspension of disbelief. So directed by Richard Donner, you have Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, Jackie Cooper as Perry White, Mark McClure as Jimmy Olsen, Marlon Brando as Jor-El. You have Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, Terrence Stamp as General Zod, Sarah Douglas as Ursa, Jack O'Halloran as Nun, Ned Beatty as Otis. I had no idea that was Ned Beatty when I watched this. Valerie Perrine as Miss Tessmacher. So the best part of this movie, by far, is Christopher Reeve. He is the all-American boy who just fit this role. He's a very good classically trained actor, damn good at his craft, and he's believable, because this is in a time where the movie characters you had were very black and white. You were either a good guy and you did good things, or you were a bad guy and you did bad things, and there was no gray area there. And I don't really like that, to be honest. I like gray characters. I like complex characters. But if you're going to have this, like, absolute, Boy Scout, as they described him in other movies, Christopher Reeve is who you want to go with. Absolutely. And so you get the backstory. You start out on Krypton, and you have Marlon Brando as Jor-El, kind of doing the explanation that the planet is dying, and they're saving the race by sending Kal-El to Earth. And he, of course, gets picked up by the Kents. And you get not very much of his childhood. You get a little bit, not much. One thing I did not like about this movie was Ned Beatty. Not necessarily because of Ned Beatty, but because of Otis being this bumbling idiot that Lex Luthor surrounded himself with. Lex Luthor being this, genius IQ guy. Gene Hackman, I liked his Lex Luthor. I didn't love him as Lex Luthor, though, I'll be honest. And I think that they only picked Lex Luthor because, let's face it, it's a lot easier to find a guy and shave his head than it is to create something like Doomsday. It was kind of hard, though. It really was. It was kind of hard with not just the bumbling idiot humor that came with Otis and Miss Tessmacher at times, but the believability of the whole scenario of Lex Luthor being this really intelligent guy. I like Gene Hackman. I thought he was good, but yeah, he was not my favorite Lex by a mile. So you get the idea that Lex Luthor finds this mineral that can weaken kryptonite people. So like the first 1/3 of the movie is Krypton falling, and you have Superman who is finding himself and being taught the life lessons from Ma and Pa Kent. And then you move into like meeting Lex Luthor and Superman deciding to expose himself to the world, and then Gene Hackman gets the idea somehow, we never really explained how, that he can use kryptonite to kill Superman. And so they stage this thing where Superman has to come after Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, and he's looking for this remote that's supposed to keep a bomb from detonating, and he opens this lead box that winds up being kryptonite. And so they throw him in this like water pond, lake, whatever it was, with kryptonite wrapped around him. And then Tessmacher, who is with Lex Luthor, feels bad because there's one bomb going towards her loved ones and then another one going towards this fault line. And so she saves Superman. Superman saves everybody from the bombs. Everybody lives happily ever after. Lex Luthor goes to prison. And that is essentially the whole story of Superman the movie. Not very complex, very direct. It's hard for me because it's really hard for me to put myself back at a time where we didn't have this technology. It's hard for me to put myself back at a time where everything was like a different mindset. Like I was talking about, the good guys are the good guys, the bad guys are the bad guys. And even the bumbling humor that they had at that point in time just doesn't fit right now. It was kind of groundbreaking in a lot of ways for its time, but it's hard to see that now. It really is. It's difficult. If I had to go off the performances, though, the performances were good. You got the budding relationship going between Lois Lane and Clark Kent or Superman. And they were all very good. I liked everybody in their roles for the most part. It doesn't mean I necessarily loved them. I think the biggest issue I had with the movie overall is they started giving Superman just some ridiculous powers that had nothing to do with his actual powers. And then like him flying around the world to save Lois Lane, that was a massive stretch for me. But, again, I have to consider the times. So overall, man, it's really, really, really difficult for me to grade this. But I'm going to try to be as open-minded as I can because there's a big generational gap there. So I think I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Because there were issues with it that I couldn't get past. The Otis stuff, the weird powers that just came from nowhere. Everybody conveniently knowing how to do stuff. Conveniently knowing that there was this kryptonite fragment, how to get it, that it actually hurt Superman. None of that. I mean, it was just all very convenient. Lois Lane not being able to figure out the Clark Kent is Superman and then figuring it out and then him kind of like wiping her mind. So I have to, take it back a few notches for stuff like that because it just wasn't very thought out. So with that being said, 6.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz. Kaged Nation out.